My Lords, I rise to speak on Amendments 104, 105, 106, 107, but particularly 107A and 108 relating to the Day 1 rights. Now, getting into work helps people make the best of their lives, it helps them reach their full potential, it's good for them, their families, and of course employment helps the businesses, and through the taxes that everybody pays, helps sustain our state. So you'd expect that it was a core role of the state to incentivise the creation of jobs in pursuance of economic growth, personal fulfilment, and also the reduction in the costs of worklessness. It sounds so obvious, but the government needs to be reminded of those simple truths, because the facts are that these well-meaning and superficially attractive suggestions that employees should have full rights from day one are just so full of perverse consequences that will reduce the appetite to take on staff and particularly benight those with few qualifications and limited experience. And furthermore, it doesn't reflect the way in which the economy is changing and the world of work is altering as people choose to work in different ways. Now, taking on new employees isn't something that organisations do lightly. For the most part, there's an application process, an interview process. We've heard some of these from other noble lords. And for most employees applying for and getting a new job, it's a well-trodden path as someone builds a career, gains experience and seeks promotion. But that's not how it is for that part of the workforce that doesn't have formal qualifications. We've heard about ex-prisoners, people without experience or a strong track record in a particular field. People only get on the ladder when an employer takes a chance on them. And the muddled thinking behind this bill results in the perverse outcome that not only does it increase the cost of taking somebody on, but it gets the risk of getting it wrong. And so the consequences are to make a business to think twice before taking that chance on that person with limited experience, people at the beginning of the careers or an impaired employment record. And these people need the greatest help. It's not just the youngsters who are the only ones who may suffer from the well-meaning but counterproductive proposals. Many people prefer a portfolio of part-time jobs nowadays because it suits their lifestyle. And the facts are the relationship between casual, agency and temporary work in the UK suits those engaged in it for a variety of reasons. The temporary agency Adecco tells me in a briefing that 79% of UK temporary and agency workers rate the flexibility it gives them most highly, and two-thirds say that temporary or part-time work help their work-life balance, because much of the temporary work is variable and unpredictable and is incompatible with some of those other day one rights, the offering of guaranteed hours over a reference period. And some of the employment you can think about that might fall under this ambit is like weather work. Well, there's not much call for an ice cream seller on a wet bank holiday weekend in a seaside town, for example. Seasonal work, harvesting, for example. Now, it often depends on the weather, and it's been very dry recently, and harvest is going to be earlier this year. So if you think about the reference period, more likely to be work up till the 30th of June rather than the normal quarter, the successive quarter reference period. Casual work, waiting at a wedding or manning the turnstiles at a stadium concert event, for example. All of these are temporary things, and it's going to be very difficult on day one for the employer to commit to some of these things because the control is out of the employer's control. But there's another perverse consequence, and that relates to the wider umbrella of agency and temporary work. Supply teachers, supply nurses. I notice Mary, Baroness, not her name, who's no longer in her place, who's the head chief nurse, and locum and sickness cover, where the employee determines their availability, not the employer, as it suits them. So we see that some of these rights are actually going to put the employee in a worse situation because they're going to lose their bargaining power. So, I'll move on because I'm conscious of time. All I will say is that codifying many of these things will make it harder for people to take advantage of temporary opportunities, and it counterintuitively reduces their bargaining power and removes that labour market liquidity that makes the economy work for all parties, and particularly the taxpayer. And I'd like to say to Baroness O'Grady, there's a paradox of regulation at play here. In a helpful briefing, the CIPD has made an international analysis of the interplay between employment regulation and unemployment rates and dismissals. And whilst the UK is perceived to have lower levels of employment protection than some of our European counterparts, employment in the UK is greater, unemployment is lower, and the rate of dismissal is at the lower end of all international comparisons, second only to Japan. So counterintuitively, and this is the key point, the evidence shows that the easier it is to let someone go, the more people are taken on. That's how the world works. So the threat of tribunal resulting from routine dismissal from day one will make employers more risk-averse in hiring. And so the solution is simple, and it's in Amendment 108 to make sure that the additional protections against unfair dismissal come with the 9 months of employment rather than day one. So, finally, I can see other perverse and undesirable consequences should these proposals pass. Because by employers seeking to reduce the risk of taking on new staff may restrict opportunities only to those who they know via contacts, often within a family group, or from existing employees, or by other social networks. Nepotism will be the result that, as the logical conclusion, as employers seek to manage and reduce the risk. And that doesn't do anybody any good at all. So this counterproductive bill works against the people it purports to help the most, resulting in businesses will restrict in their ability to grow, the effective pool of talent will be diminished, and the prospects for economic growth curtailed.